I used to do a lot more with the chakras personally. At one point, I had a daily practice with them, but that was years ago. Apparently, the roads I have taken in my life have led me not to consider them for quite a while. But I am considering them here today, and I will give you a brief introduction to chakras in general, talk about each one specifically, at least to some extent, and all of this is going to lead to talking about the heart chakra, because that's where love starts, where love is, where love resides. And I want to do that because I think we have evolved a political system where most politicians, most of the time, will never, ever talk about love. Us non-politicians often talk about love in a romantic sense. We have lots of romantic movies we can see. We might also talk about a mother or father having love for their child, love within a family, love for your husband or wife. The Greeks had the word agape, which might mean a kind of selfless love for all of existence. That's probably getting a little closer to what I'm trying to talk about later. But the word love can be confusing because you can love a restaurant that you had a good meal at. You can see somebody with a new haircut and love what they've done to their hair, or love the beauty you're seeing in a sunset. So with all these kinds of love, it's interesting to me how it really doesn't show up in the political part of our lives. Politics is where we have to decide together as a society, how will we function? You can love the town you live in, if you do, but once you try to bring love to a city council meeting or a state senate debate or a presidential campaign, I think it just gets weird. But why is that? Why are people afraid to mention anything about love in more public, in more political situations? Why? When resources are available and need to be divided up and distributed, why are greed and aggression so prominent? Why are power and power moves so important? Why is this normal? Why has love been so chased away? It would be highly unusual to mention it and actually mean it, not just mention it for some political gain, like actually mean it. I think there are many ways to approach these kinds of questions, but I find chakras a particularly helpful framework for thinking about this, for this kind of discussion. So that's what I want to talk about today. Hello and welcome to the 10 Crutches podcast. My name is David. I'm glad you're here. Even the Cleveland Clinic has a page about chakras. It's mostly the kind of chakra framework focused on the individual. You can't necessarily expect a medical clinic to bring in societal problems. They are going to be focused mostly on the individual. That's the current paradigm. You may think of chakras as new age bullshit, and in at least some ways you would be right. Many people have taken the chakras and run with them as a way to make money with promises of finding balance or coming into harmony with your true nature or something like that. And sure, yes, there's plenty of stuff like that around. So ultimately, let the buyer beware. But just because some people use it like that doesn't mean the whole thing is bullshit. You can find writings about chakras that are over 4,000 years old. Chakras are a way of thinking about the human body, of thinking about how energy flows through the human body. Our culture isn't so much into energy like that at the moment, probably because we don't have good ways to measure it or quantify it. If you've ever gotten shiatsu or had an acupuncture treatment, That's another way of explaining how energy flows through the body along meridians. If you're interested, it's easy to look up the basics about what chakras are. Each one has a location in the body, a color from the rainbow, a special sound or mantra that is associated with it, a Sanskrit name. There's even glands in the body associated with each chakra. Usually there's a chart or something like that on pretty much any website that has anything about chakras. Easy to find, as I said. I'm going to put a simple chart in the show notes at 10crutches.link and add my chart to the thousands that are already up on the internet. I'm also going to put a link in the show notes to Anadea Judith's excellent book, Eastern Body, Western Mind. The subtitle of that book is Psychology and the Chakra System as a Path to the Self. If you want to go deeper with chakras, I think this book is a great place to start. But I want to talk about chakras from a more social angle. In many approaches you find the focus is on the personal, on the individual, on your personal well-being, your personal growth. It's not the social, it's not the political. Usually, again, this is for most approaches to chakras that I've seen. So I want to start talking about chakras, but I want to have this discussion lead to how we can conceive of chakras in a political way. An overview. For me, this story is not about, is it true or not? This is about finding a story that appeals to you, a story you can use to make sense of things. For me, I love going through the chakras, whether they're real or not. I love coming to focus on the heart chakra to cultivate a loving connection between independent and interconnected entities. So if this story appeals to you as well, please go ahead and use it. You don't have to worry about whether it's true or not. So to start, we can simply say chakras are energy centers. The energy, life force, chi, prajna, whatever you want to call it, there is an energy animating you all the time. That's the beginning of the story. You can say energy is, quote, coming into your body, and that's true in a way. But it's also true that your body itself is made of this energy. If the whole story of how you came to be here is just simply sperm meets egg gets fertilized, grows in the womb, baby born, now you're here. If the story of who you are and what you are is only about the physical, well, in my opinion, you're leaving out some very important stuff like the energy. Where did those sperm and egg that made you, where did they come from? Obviously, other creatures, namely your parents, also came from sperms and eggs and then gave some of them to you. But if you keep thinking back, if you keep going back and back, generation after generation, to before there was human, like you get lost at some point. Your mind will not be able to hold going back and back and back. Where did it all come from? If you say the Big Bang, well, to me, that isn't a whole lot different than saying God created the universe, or that the world exists on the back of a turtle, or that you just don't really know. We need a story in our minds to explain what our minds cannot contain. But just assume for a moment, assume that matter, that all the stuff we are made of, and energy, assume that matter and energy are simply two versions of the same thing. Kind of like ice and steam and liquid water are all versions of the same thing. And then maybe you have at least a sense of it. Matter is energy crystallized. Talking about chakras is kind of like talking about the way energy meets matter, maybe a little like the way water and steam can interact with ice. So if you can accept that there are energy centers, well, then you might be interested in different ways to look at energy centers, just like the energy that runs along meridians is interesting to some people before when they do shiatsu or acupuncture. When you work with chakra systems in particular, usually you see 7 chakras. Some chakra systems have 9, but I'm sticking here with 7. As energy centers, chakras can be in balance. They can be out of balance. Each chakra has things to teach, has lessons you may need to learn to bring them into balance. And of course, balance is never just attained and then you're done with it. Balance on so many levels. Balance must be found over and over again. Another general thing to remember is that chakras are multidirectional. Chakras basically can receive energy and send energy 360 degrees all over, just like the sun radiates out everywhere. I mean, our planet captures just a little bit of what the sun radiates. Chakras radiate like that too. Chakras, you can think of them as little suns radiating in all directions. Energy can move through any of the chakras to the chakra above it, to the chakra below. Energy can move from the world into the chakras and the other way out. Energy can come from a chakra and go out into the world. So I go over the chakras because the story they tell helps me understand why the heart chakra is so important. And it also helps me think about how we might someday be able to bring actual love and actual heart chakra energy into our political discussions. The first chakra. You are, in a totally cosmic sense, one manifestation of the universal creation. But this means whatever the universe is, you manifest as an individual. You're a creation of the universe. You are the whole universe manifesting, and then one kind of part aspect of it manifests as you, manifests as an individual. The first chakra is about you and your own personal existence. You get a first chakra because you have to start somewhere and you have to end somewhere. That's what manifesting as an individual means. You, in order to be a separate being, must exist. Our English word exist comes from the Latin word existere. The sistere part means to stand. Sistere, existere. Ex means to be apart from. Existere. When you exist, you are standing apart. You are, in a sense, an outsider, an outstander, one who existeres, one who stands outside of the cosmic stream. Your independence, your first chakra, is about establishing your existence in the world as a being separate from the world. This chakra is located at the base of the spine. Sometimes you can imagine it at the perineum, which is between the anus and the genitalia. The first chakra is sometimes called the base chakra, and from the strictly physical point of view, the body is wired via the nervous system to survive. Survival, which is separate from existence, survival is also associated with this chakra as well. When you have a first chakra, energy can now move from the earth and into you as an individual. Energy can also move from the first chakra back into the earth. If you ever hear anyone say, "Oh, I feel so ungrounded," that often requires first chakra work. When your first chakra is balanced and open and energy can flow easily in and out, you are grounded on the earth, with the earth, grounded in your body / the situations your body finds itself in here on earth. The second chakra. Okay, so now that you personally exist, and now that you have your survival more or less settled, you become aware that you are not the only thing, or the only person, or the only separate entity that exists. There are other things, creatures, beings. You start to see why you need a second chakra. There are so many things. Life is complicated. You need to be related to all these things. The second chakra is often associated with sex and sexuality, and it certainly has that aspect. But to me, the second chakra is more general than that. Relating needs to happen between you and each and everything and event. Sex is a particular way of individuals, or maybe small groups if that's your thing. Sex is a way of relating to each other, but relating isn't only about you and getting laid. Relating is about sex in a very general and abstract way of conceiving of sex. It's about you, the you that exists with a first chakra, and others who exist also with a first chakra of their own. In a way, you are having sex with the world all the time. This is why, for example, eating and cooking and feeding each other can be so sexy when they are. In our Western culture, we often associate sex with penetration. You're either going to be the one who penetrates or you're going to be the one who is penetrated. Sex can also be about being surrounded, being engulfed, because a vagina can surround a penis. As a being who exists, you are entering, you are quote-unquote penetrating the world, for example, as an infant with your cries of being hungry. And you are also being surrounded and engulfed, like when an infant is being held or swaddled. I see breastfeeding as a perfect symbol of second chakra activity. For both the mother and the child, self and other are united in a single activity, giving and receiving, penetrated and being penetrated, surrounding and being surrounded. It all just disappears because the second chakra is flowing so completely between the two. The third chakra. Okay, here you are. You have a first and a second chakra existing in a world where there are other existences, where you meet and interact just as others meet and interact with you. So now what? Are you going to be able to move around? Do you have goals? Are you going to be able to accomplish those goals? What is required for you to continue to survive and exist and interact through time? What you get with a third chakra is the ability to move in a direction to accomplish a goal. This is incredibly important, and every creature, from the amoeba to a zebra, to a tree, to a human, everybody needs the power of the third chakra in some form or another. You like something and you want more. You don't like something and you need to move away from it. The third chakra is where a creature with a first and second chakra learns about power, learns about acting in the world, in the public sphere, learning to accomplish goals in the world. The power to move, to accomplish survival needs, feeding yourself, and when you grow up, helping to feed your family And when you grow up even more, helping to take care of your town, of your nation, of the planet. This power to move can, of course, take many forms, especially with us humans who have self-images. We have the tremendous need to be oriented in the world. Us humans can be so easily confused, and we may use this third chakra. We may use our power to accomplish goals born of greed and aggression. You can look around and describe the world in terms of how much third chakra activity do you see? How much of the world is thinking about power, having it, not having it, using it badly, using it well? Look at all the power plays that are happening in our world today. When you can see where this initial need for power, this genuine need for power, when you can see where it comes from, you can also see how it gets so distorted. The third chakra can work toward having power over others, having power to destroy things, having power to accumulate things, money, at the expense of others. A particularly gruesome form of the third chakra, people who actually torture other people. Most politicians are obsessed with power, but they have to be at least very focused on power. The job of governing requires power to move, to accomplish goals. Mafia bosses, same thing, focused on power. Leaders of corporations, anyone who uses money as a marker for how well they are doing, how well their business is doing. That's focus on power. Money is such a good thing to chase after if you are obsessed with these distortions of power. Money quantifies how much power you think you have, and at the same time, the money itself will confer more power to you. You can actually use all that money to exercise power. How's that for a nice endless loop? How could you not chase after money if power is your main thing? The fourth chakra, the first look. Now we have, with the first three chakras, we've built ourselves a creature who exists as an individual, who can relate to the separate things that also exist and can move in the world, can have goals, and can accomplish things. As the energy rises out of the earth and into the first chakra, to the second chakra, to the third chakra, with this evolution from existing to relating to moving, the natural place for the energy to go to continue to rise is the fourth chakra. With the fourth chakra, we encounter love. But why love? Why would that be the next chakra? What is love anyway, besides all those different kinds and different definitions I mentioned earlier? So I'm going to read this definition of love I encountered in a book by Bell Hooks called All About Love. I'll put links in the show notes to her book and to some of the sources she used to come up with her definition. I'll read it once, I'll leave a pause, and then I'll read it again. The will to extend one's self for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. The will to extend one's self for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. This is how the first three chakras can integrate in a way that works for you and for the world. So it isn't just about eating the world just to satisfy yourself, or fucking people over, or treating people badly. Cultivating love with the fourth chakra requires all of you and all of the world. The fourth chakra is the place where nothing is left out. Love is how you don't leave things out. The things you tend to ignore because they don't fit into whatever you want them to fit into. But before we get into really talking about what love is and how to cultivate it and how it's related to spiritual growth and how it might be a place to have a social contract, let's jump up to the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, located at the top of the head. We're going to be coming back to the fourth chakra, but when we return, when we come to look again, we will respect the fourth chakra. Respect is from the Latin re, which means again, like when you redo something, you do it again. Respect has spect also, which means to look, like you look at a spectacle. When you introspect, you look inside, introspect. When you retrospect, you look back in time. We're going to come back to the fourth chakra and respect it. But by jumping up to the seventh chakra and then working our way down to the sixth and then the fifth, we, of course, will once again encounter the fourth chakra and we'll see the need to respect the fourth chakra because it's the crossroads of all the energy centers, the place where the physical meets the spiritual, where relationship meets vision, where power meets voice. The seventh chakra. As I mentioned, the seventh chakra is the crown chakra, located at the top of the head. And it is where the energy we might call the universal energy. I want to wash my mouth out when I say that. This is where the universal energy comes into the body. The problem with calling it universal energy is that it implies there's some separation between you and the universal energy. That's a big problem with naming things at all. It makes them seem separate. You are already 100% infused with 100% universal energy. You are nothing but universal energy. That said, to the extent you are separate, to the extent that somewhere down below you have a first chakra, that first chakra of universal energy is spinning with individuality. The first chakra at your base implies the seventh chakra at the top. The first chakra connects you to the earth, which is also a manifestation of 100% universal energy. You also need to have a way to connect your individual existence with the huge remainder of the undifferentiated universe. This energy, which is both you and not you, needs a way to enter your individual system. In my opinion, it's very easy to get fooled by this seventh chakra, an image of what this universal energy is. It can be for some very enticing, it can be very seductive, but an image of the universal energy that's a sixth chakra thing. That's what I mean by being fooled. Once you are in a human body, there's lots of problems, lots of issues. There's greed and aggression, and there seems to be no end to the way that they can manifest. Greed for a connection to the universal energy, totally expected, totally can happen, totally a mistake. Desire to become one with the universe is a mistake because you're already one with the universe. Or wanting to leave the human body behind, kind of using the seventh chakra as a portal to escape into the wonderful universeness of the universe. This can also be very tempting, so be careful here. I see the seventh chakra as a mirror image of the first chakra, very similar to it in some ways. the universal energy is entering you through two portals. But there's a difference between the two. Let's call it the forms the universal energy takes. You, as an individual human connected to the earth, an individual planet, you are connected to the earth with your first chakra. The universal energy comes to you via the earth, transmuted by the earth, earth manifesting as you, earth feeding you, sheltering you with all your movement and cooperation. With the seventh chakra, the connection is from you to the rest of the universe. You, as an individual, connecting as much as you are able to the whole rest of the universe. With the first chakra, of course, there's no chakras below it. So when energy moves down out of the first chakra, it moves out of the human body, it's absorbed back into the earth. With the seventh chakra, when the energy moves up and out, it's moving up and out into the rest of the universe. The earth is so huge, it may feel like our little life has no impact, no effect. And then you're going to compare yourself to the universe. You're going to give energy to the universe. Talk about being tiny. But once you exist, which you do if you are listening to this podcast, once you exist, you make a difference. You are a difference. You are manifesting a difference. It may not be a huge difference. It may not be the difference you imagine you want to make, but the universe clearly wants you to exist. You know how you can tell? Because there's no other way to exist without the universe wanting you to. The sixth chakra. Assuming your seventh chakra is open and spinning and doing well, for all of us humans who exist, you can count on it at least being a little bit open. When the energy moves down, it moves to the sixth chakra, which is also known as the third eye and is associated with the pituitary gland. It's most often identified as being in the lower part of the forehead, or maybe mid-forehead, just above and between the two eyes that we have to look at the physical world. The third eye is what you use to, quote-unquote, see the spiritual world, at least metaphorically. The sixth chakra is the place of visions, of inspirations, of imagination, of seeing possibilities. I think it's nice to call it the third eye, since eyes are all about seeing, and we need some way to talk about how we can see internally, inside our heads. We can have dreams at night. We can literally see things at night with our eyes closed while we're asleep. So it makes sense to use this metaphor of the eye to talk about seeing pictures of possibilities. Just as the seventh chakra has a parallel to the first chakra, the kind of the top and bottom to our little human body package, the sixth chakra, one down from the seventh, has a parallel to the second chakra, one up from the first. For the second chakra, I talked about breastfeeding and about how two separate beings can find each other and interact together in a beautiful dance. In the sixth chakra, you are dancing again. You have, via the seventh chakra, taken undifferentiated, universal energy into a differentiated individual body. Now you need a place where the universal and the individual can commingle. The second chakra was about learning the lessons of being an individual along with other individuals, kind of like what you were supposed to learn about in kindergarten. With the sixth chakra, you are learning lessons about how to take the universal energy into your body and make sense of that. What are the visions that make sense to you? How do you see your universal place while having an individual body? How does your individual body manifest its universality? These are the questions that arise in the sixth chakra. It is also here in the sixth chakra that you see the limitations of having closed chakras below. If you have not had a good way to be open and clear, if you have not made sense of the earth's life energy coming into you, animating you via the lower chakras, then the energy coming up and meeting the universal energy in the sixth chakra will have some troubles. The sixth chakra can also have trouble when the physical conditions like poverty and oppression or times of war are manifest. When the environment is not relatively stable, first chakra activities around survival can be so compelling that the visions of the sixth chakra around what's possible, they just become invisible. So this chakra system is a way of understanding hopelessness and feelings of powerlessness. Mostly in the U.S. at this point, we no longer have a way to train ourselves well, to raise our young well. Many parents just hand their kids phones when they're 2 and hope it all works out. Our eyes get mesmerized by a virtual world, and then the real world starts to be ignored more and more. Sometimes photos of a meal become more important than actually eating the food. Sometimes likes on a post become more important than having a friend to actually talk to. I think part of the hunger to look at screens, part of the addiction we have to our screens is because of this sixth chakra activity of having visions, because it's atrophied. The next time you reach for your phone out of boredom, try stopping for a moment. Just pause. Focus on your seventh chakra instead. Feel the energy there at the crown of your head. Feel energy moving out into the universe. Feel energy moving into you, and then move that energy down to the sixth chakra. Look inside for visions that can guide you better than any vision on your phone. The main point here is that the human brain is capable of making amazing pictures of what is possible. This is done by the sixth chakra, combining with the earth/human energy coming up from below with the universal energy coming down from above. We relate to visions with the sixth chakra, just like we related to things and people and events with our second chakra. So you can start to get a sense where someone who has a very self-centered view of life, someone who has not done much work to open up the heart chakra, they may have visions of what's possible that exclude many creatures, exclude many humans, or they may not feel any hope. They may only have distressing visions. And you can imagine how the more someone has love, their visions will include more and more and more of the world. The fifth chakra. Just like there were parallels between the first and the seventh chakras as the bottom and top of our human system, and just as we found parallels between the second and the sixth chakras, as I'm sure your guess, you can see where we're going, there is also a parallel between the third, the power chakra, and the fifth chakra. In the third chakra, you take the energy and the lessons of the first two, and you find power in the third. This is the power to move through the world of things. In the fifth chakra, located at the throat, you find your voice. Finding your voice is essential for all humans. Having a voice, also essential for all humans as well. Just like you needed to exist and to be related to things in order to begin to know about power, you must have some access to the universal energy and some visions in order to be able to know something about communication. Speaking your voice, listening to other voices, this back and forth, this communication is what the fifth chakra is all about. And you can see it out of balance all the time if you look. Just find someone who uses power to ignore or to crush other people. In other words, who uses their third chakra out of balance, chances are their fifth chakra will be out of balance as well. They will have a voice, but they'll be unable to hear others. The fourth chakra, with respect. So here we are once again in the middle at the fourth chakra. We have seen how the top three chakras lead you down to the fourth, to the heart. And of course, we saw how the first three chakras lead you up to the very same heart. This is where the love is. This is where as above, so below meets. This is how the undifferentiated can manifest in different forms. This is the gate, the swinging door that allows the universal to manifest as the individual, and the individual to manifest in a universal way. The fourth chakra is the bridge. Love is the bridge. Love is the heart holding out two hands, with one hand extended toward the lower three chakras and one hand toward the upper three chakras. Love is making sense of it all, finding a way to live with it all. Love is being able to be completely specific and direct and present and grounded in your particular situation. And at the same time, not being attached, not needing it to go this way or another way, trusting the universal, undifferentiated energy that animates the whole shebang. I want to talk more about the specific and grounded definition of love I mentioned earlier, because we can see a lot of people claiming love, claiming to be loving. Maybe we have parents who claimed to love us, but maybe what they were doing wasn't as loving as they thought it was. I'm going to go copy and paste here. Those two times that I read Bell Hooks's definition of love, I'm going to put that here again. The will to extend one's self for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. The will to extend one's self for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. This is how I got to consider love as a social contract. You cannot manifest in a universal way while you are chicken scratching for money and power, desperately grabbing anything and everything you can, when your life is all about serving yourself and getting the things you want the way you want them. When you walk around the city or town where you live, try it out. Feel your fourth chakra and how it is for you to have three chakras below and three above. How you have the earth below you and the sky above you. How you, as a human, have the chance to integrate sky and earth, to give both of them an individual place to manifest in your body. And where is the center of that home? Where does the earth meet the sky? In your heart. The fourth chakra is the meeting place for these two currents of energy in you. The one coming down from above, the one coming up from below. This is the place from which you can face the world, face the injustice, face all the problems that seem completely insurmountable. Maybe they are insurmountable. I don't know. I don't have any ideas about how to specifically approach all the greed and aggression I see. There is just so much of it. But I wanted to find a way for us all to be able to talk. How can we approach this all with love? Love, which is as universal as you can make it. Love for all the human beings caught in their third chakra power games, chasing money, stacking up their billions of dollars like a hoarder might stack up newspapers in their living room. Lots of people will laugh at you if you seriously try to bring love into politics, into decision-making about how best to distribute resources so everyone has a fair chance at life. It seems silly to talk about it when wars are raging and show no sign of abating. In a way, this vision, this communication, it really has no chance. In a way, there's no chance for love to manifest in our public life together. And yet,